Hello and welcome to Mathias Rust Corner. Today we're talking about how you can test your Axum web services with in-process API tests. Axum is a commonly used crate that makes it easy and ergonomic to create HTTP servers in Rust. However, testing such APIs can sometimes be a complex problem to solve. Normally, you would need to spawn an actual web server listening on a real OS port to test the HTTP surface of your application. This causes a lot of problems and extra complexity when running the tests. But after today, you will be able to use the axum-test crate to do in-process testing of everything. The axum-test crate provides us with a test server type, which is constructed around your Axum service. It provides HTTP client methods to make requests to your server as if you were accessing it over the network. Throughout this video, I will be referring to three different sizes of tests: small, medium, and large. This nomenclature is taken from the excellent book Software Engineering at Google and allows us to describe tests in terms of what environment they are run in rather than what they test. Small tests run in a single process and aren't allowed to access any network or system resources outside of that process. This means it has to mock or fake all file system, network, and other kinds of external access. Small tests are very affordable and quick to run, and it is advisable to make tests as small as possible. Medium tests are allowed to access compute local resources, such as the file system, but are not permitted to access any external network. Large tests can access the network, and are as such the most complex you can set up and run. Use large tests cautiously, as they are expensive to both create and maintain. Note that the size of the test does not address what they are testing. You can have a small system test and a large unit test. The test size and the test type are orthogonal concepts. Let's see a small example of how to test an Axum application. In this basic service, we provide the health endpoint in our router. We can either choose to host an Axum service using this router, or we can create a test server wrapping it. Now, in our small test, we can try to make a simple GET call on a few different endpoints and observe the result. In this case, the correct call to /health returns the 200 status code, whereas the call to the non-existing endpoint results in a 404. Observe that this is testing the exact same code paths as you would use when deploying the service, so we can verify that the HTTP interface of our service provides the correct methods. Of course, the existence of endpoints is the simplest thing to test. We are also in control over the provided headers. This means we can fully test our auth system to verify that the specific tokens are correctly allowed or denied into our API. In this test, we try our protected endpoints using three auth cases: no auth token at all, an invalid token, and a valid token. We then simply write unit test-like assertions that the behavior is as expected. The real magic of in-process testing is that we can access the mock dependencies from our tests. This allows us to verify the result of any given HTTP call all the way through our system. In this case, we are providing our services with a mocked repository to store posts. After making a successful put call to the post ID endpoint, we can assert that the corresponding post now has been successfully committed to the repository. We can also verify that audit logs, etc. are correctly populated as a result of API calls. Axum-test allows you to choose the transport it will use. The options are mock HTTP, HTTP random port, and HTTP IP port. Mock HTTP is the default, and as the name suggests, it will simply fake the entire HTTP layer. This is normally what you would wish to use. HTTP random port will use the real network layer on the random port, essentially turning your test into a medium test, since it is accessing host resources. And finally, the HTTP IP port allows you to pick both IP and port for the transport. The two HTTP transports might be useful if you want to test your server using other HTTP clients, for instance for scraping metrics and so on. You should stick to the default mock HTTP as long as you can though, as it is the simplest and most reliable option. This concludes our quick introduction to the axum-test crate. We've seen how we can test our entire web application in process, allowing us greater coverage and a very simple runtime to provide. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more Rust content like this. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!